Protesters calling for a ceasefire in Gaza filled a House office building today in Washington. Somehow they were able to get into the Cannon House office building, which is right across the street from the Capitol, carrying flags and chanting. This comes after President Biden wrapped up his trip to Israel, promising military support in that conflict. Alice Barr reports on his visit and what happens next.
Amid seething tensions in the Middle East, President Biden making a brief but politically potent visit to Israel.
You are not alone.
Reaffirming U.S. support for Israel's fight after the brutal Hamas terror attack and seeking to contain the bloody conflict following a devastating blast at a hospital in Gaza that killed hundreds of civilians and roiled anger and agony in surrounding countries where protests erupted. While Israel and Hamas trade blame for the hospital explosion, President Biden pointing to the U.S. intelligence assessment that Israel is not responsible.
I was outraged and saddened by the enormous loss of life yesterday in the hospital in Gaza. Based on the information we've seen to date, it appears the result of an errant rocket fired by a terrorist group in Gaza.
The president's planned summit with the leaders of the Palestinian Authority, Egypt and Jordan canceled in the blast's wake, while President Biden announced $100 million in new U.S. humanitarian aid for Gaza and the West Bank, along with an agreement that Israel would allow food, water and medicine from Egypt into Gaza as civilians flee Israeli airstrikes.
The suffering is increasing every day. We see streams of people walking south. And then the question is, where do they go?
President Biden comforting survivors and families of the victims killed in Israel, sharing emotional stories of loss and hope as the U.S. vows support to bring home hostages held in Gaza and ease the raw suffering in a region on a knife's edge. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.